Top 10 Opportunities for Christian Stewardship Services.
Actually, I'm going to talk about gifts of appreciated securities, which I think is much more interesting than just appreciated securities. These gifts are a gift opportunity for now. Dave just talked about a planned gift that comes through the state. And gifts of appreciated securities are basically an opportunity that you might want to be looking out for with your donors and connecting to CSS, because they are gifts now. And just to prove that, we've brought some checks along for various people in the room, and their organizations, I should say, not just the people, which are the result of various gifts of appreciated securities that people have given through CSS in the last month. So we, just to show that that happens, there will be some gifts given out to your charities later on. And so let that be an encouragement to you to think about, let's open my ears and eyes up to this possibility and learn about how we might use it. So what are gifts of appreciated securities other than that? They're just shares and mutual funds that have appreciated in value. And because of appreciated in value, there's capital gains tax liability on them when you sell them. A few years back now, the government decided that if people wanted to gift shares that had appreciated in value to charities, they would no longer have to pay that capital gains tax. So there was right away there an advantage to giving those shares over just a cash gift. So because you get a double benefit, not only do you get a tax receipt for the full value of the shares that you've given, but you also don't have to pay the capital gains tax. Capital gains tax liability on your shares varies greatly. Some's not going to have very much at all. If it only went up 5%, it's not going to be much to pay there. But we have people with shares with a zero cost base. They got them for no cost. So every value increase is going to be taxable there. Various. Anyway, so just to point out that there's the advantage on various shares is better than others. So the greater the capital gains tax, the greater the advantage. So why is this the right tool for you to promote to your, or even just suggest to people who support your organization? Well, it's a very easy suggestion to make. One of the things I was going to talk about later, but I'm going to say now, is it's very easy to put out a little flyer around this time of year and promote the idea, explain it a little bit, and Janet would be happy to help you put one of those together. I know that CPJ did this a few years ago, and various other organizations have done that, just to put the idea in people's heads. Now, there are other ways too, and I'll get to that later. But so, is this a good time to be doing it? Yes. Many people like to make year-end gifts, and so they are thinking about how they might do that. This is a good way of doing it, partly because the market is high in Canada at the moment. So it's a good time to be suggesting this to your donors. Not only because of the high market, but also because of the propensity of people to make gifts at year end, to get their tax receipts in by the end of December, and I know you've all noticed that. So, in the handout there's an example that shows you the tax benefits of this, and I'm not going to get into that now. You've got it, you can look at that later. So, this tool is about smart giving. You're mainly going to be addressing it to people who are somewhat savvy investors, but you may also find that there are other people that this will work for. For example, a widow who really maybe didn't take much notice of what her husband was playing around in his stock portfolio may suddenly find herself wanting to look at that a bit more closely and see it as a potential gift. And Wayne has met with several people like that, and we've had some very good conversations with those people. It's also a way that people might actually give their bequest. Say they've said, for example, they may have said, we'll give 10% of my estate to charity. The executors can look at the stock portfolio and give from that instead of from cash. So I mentioned that it's a major year-end gift idea. We have a lot of donors that make this a regular thing every year around this time. They will give a gift of securities and distribute those gifts out to charities. And some of that is what will be handed out later to people. So what kind of donors and opportunities are we looking for when you're speaking with them? One story I'd like to share is about someone who years ago had an insurance policy with Sun Life. At the time that the company and others were demutualized, everybody who had a policy was given some shares. They got them for free. So they get little dividend checks every 6 months or whatever, a statement, you might hear them mention that. Those shares are ideal gifts of securities, and Wayne hooked up on this earlier in the year, and we ended up with about 4 different people giving gifts of these paper certificates and things that they'd forgotten about a long time ago, and we helped them through the process, because that one is a bit of a process, but mostly the gifts are fairly simple to administer. You may have someone who wants to make a large pledge to your capital campaign at a church or a school, and this would be an ideal way for them to make it. Again, a couple of examples from this year. One is in our annual report. A couple wanted to fulfill a very large pledge in the hundreds of thousands of dollars to their church, and they did the entire thing through gifts of securities. They had a large portfolio, and they were in their 80s, so they were thinking forward, let's do this now, let's make a difference now. And I think $450,000 went out to that church for its capital campaign. Only last month, Maynard handed over a check for $102,000 to a school that had a capital campaign. And again, it was through a gift of securities, and there's another check for them coming too. So those are great opportunities. Other times, it may be a donor that is selling a business or a farm and is going to have a large tax liability, in which case, do invite us to come and help the donor examine their situation. We may also work with their accountant. We are very keen to work with the donor's other advisors, their lawyer or their accountant, especially at times like this where somebody's selling a business and they want to make a gift then, which will both reduce their tax liability and give the gift now while they can see it happening. Various other examples of that I'm not going to get into. Some of them are in your handout. So, how can you engage CSS in this? Well, you need to. Most of you need to. Some large charities have brokerage accounts that they can, and people to work on their behalf receiving gifts. Most of you don't. So you need to have someone who can do it for you and a brokerage account ready and willing to receive these gifts. Not much fun setting up brokerage accounts. If you've ever tried to do one at your church or a small organisation, it's lots of hoops to jump through, and we are there already, ready and willing to do it for you, and there is no cost to our partner organisations to do this for you. So just ask your donors and bear in mind that we are here to help, so those two things go together. So I suggested earlier that you might want to just put the word out in your bulletins or in mail-outs that are going out at Christmas. But also, if you're going to visit a donor, you might want to have something with you that reminds you to bring up this topic or spot if some of the situations I talked about are present in this family. So we can help you with the actual process of receiving the gifts and getting you the check, and we can also help you with the promotion of it. So once you have once you have a donor who's interested in doing this, there's a couple of choices there. Mostly it can be done over the phone or by email. And I always ask that you connect the donor directly with us to just start the process. If the donor wants, or if you want, we can have one of our stewardship consultants go out and visit with them and help them with the paperwork, talk about the process. Or if they're comfortable with it, they can just call me up and I will walk them through the process, give them the forms that are necessary, and that will mostly be it. They have to file a form with their broker to set the process up, and they'll give us some instructions on where they want the money to go to once we have the cash. Other than that, it's a pretty straightforward process. We've done it hundreds of times now. We're always there at the end of the phone if your donor has a question or some little, it didn't go as fast as they thought. We've done it many times. I will say one other thing at the end. I made some notes here. It said just to point out that gifts of securities, in order to not have the capital, in order to not have to pay the capital gains tax, they must be given, it's called in kind, meaning as shares or as mutual funds. You can't just have your broker sell them and then give us the cash. And I'm surprised that not all investment advisors and donors are clued in, and brokers are clued into that. That surprises me because this has been around for a long time. But we did have one this year, right, Wayne, that an investment advisor just went and sold them and sent them. And so that lady lost out on that opportunity. So you need to be aware of those opportunities and how it works. They have to be given as shares, which is why you need a brokerage account. So we'll give you all the forms, advice on how to use them, if necessary, help you promote them. That's what we're keen to do. Lots of gifts can flow in this way, and we just love to see them going out to all of you. So that's what I have to say, and there'll be questions at the end if anybody has got them.
CSS can help. Call 1-800-267-8890 or visit us online at csservices.ca. Thank you.